So let's find out if, with the help of AI agents, we can create a website which looks pretty much like that. I just gonna give it a try and we run it. So I'm gonna run the script now, and what is going to happen? It's first running this any session. So it's gonna check this image, and then it's create a very detailed description of this image, which we can see here. And then when this is created, we're going to use this to actually write the code. Then Claude is going to write the code and is going to give us the first version, which is actually, as we check, it is already created. Version looks like. Okay, that is the first version, and it is not, well, it is okay already, but let's iterate on it and improve it. So what we're going to do now is we compare this image with this image and then create instructions that we actually gonna improve it. So let's just run our script again. And here you're gonna see a little bit what is going to happen. So we created, so here we now have the things which has to be changed. Reduce the size of the card, ensure they are evenly spaced horizontally, text alignment, center the text, etc., etc. Now we have the screenshot saved, and we save the screenshot. So now we have here a new version, which is slightly better, I would say. So you can see it's iterating on what we actually want to create. Okay, so now let's jump into the code. So let me explain you the code now. Actually, I tried to keep it simple. It is not the perfect version, so there's room for you to adjust. I provide you all the code in the description below, so you can just download it and play around with it. So the first thing what is going to happen, we have our swarm and we initialize it and we're gonna run it here. So here we have, like, for our swarm, we have exactly one agent. And the agent is like, you are an experienced web developer who is orchestrating the dev process. First you call analyze result, then pass a result to write code. If analyze result returns no data, only call any session. So why are we going to do that? Because when we start our script, we don't have yet a description of. First, we want to create, as I showed in my previous video, first we want to create a description of this. And as soon as we have this description, then we're going to use this description to actually write the HTML code. And we're going to check if we already have a description. If we don't have a description, we're going to call the ini session. If we do have already a screenshot made of the recent version, we then want to compare the recent version with the model version. So then we want to compare this one with actually this one. Okay, so then we have for our agent, we have like 3 functions: the ini session, the analyze result, and the write code. And the message is very simple, just start. Here in this part, I have to admit, it's not that, well, you could have solved this basically only with Python code, and you would not actually need the Swarm framework. I used it because then you can play around with it and adjust it to your use case. Because if you improve this part, and maybe in my next videos I'm gonna do that, if you improve this part here, then your tool can become a lot more powerful. So, and then we of course have like client run, and the agent and the messengers, and then we just print the result. So let's start now with the ini session, what is going to happen here in the ini session. So we have here our ini session function. Can make it even a bit more bigger maybe, yes. So we have here our ini session, and yeah, so what we're going to do is first we try to get the website description. The website description is like this, describing this very detailed. If we don't have that, we're going to create it, and I'm going to show you how we're going to create it. So at the beginning, if you run this code, you will not have this ini description, which is here. Let's take a quick look. Actually, it's just a very precise and detailed description of the website, which will be then passed to Claude for actually creating the website. If you download the code or if you visit the repo, you can just read it carefully if you want. Then, so what we're going to do first is we'd analyze the start image. And this we're going to do with this function, which we import here. And this is like the analyze image function. So what is going to happen is we use OpenAI, because I tested OpenAI vision, I tested Claude vision, I tested Pixtral vision. And I found out that for website descriptions, OpenAI, the 4.0 version is actually the best. So what we're going to do is we're going to use this one. We first import our image, this image we're going to import. Then we encode it to base 64. For OpenAI, you have like two ways how you can use the vision model. First is you provide an URL of an image, or you provide a base 64, a base 64 encoded image. So this is the option which we choose, because we don't have the image deployed. And then actually we run the prompt. And the prompt is quite complex. And I created this prompt with the help of the Claude prompt generator. You definitely should check it out. I will post the link probably in the description. And yeah, basically it's like you're tasked with providing a high detailed description of a website based on an image. This description will be used to create the website, so it's crucial to be as thorough and accurate as possible. Follow the instructions carefully. So there are several steps we're going to do. First, it's examining the image, then checking like the overall layout create an overall layout description, then create each visual element in details, and for each element we describe the size, position, colors, shapes and styles, hover effects or animations if visible. So yeah, as said, check the code, then you can take a look at this prompt and use it for yourself. You can even just pass an image together with this description in ChatGPT or in Claude, and then it will actually give you a very good image description. And this you can then use, for example, to create code for a website. Yeah, that's basically it. We have this prompt, then we just call the GPT-4o model, and yeah, we pass the image, we have the tokens maximum of 500, and then it's just going to be returned. That you might need to adjust, it might not be enough. For now I left it like that for just reducing costs. Okay, so that's it. After that, when we did that, we actually get this thing here. Then, when we did that in the session, then we store the answer what we get here, and then we store the txt. And then, why we want to do that? The website description, and then we read it. Okay, yeah, okay. Well, this is kind of obsolete at this part, so actually we store it and then we read it. Maybe you can avoid that. So then, after we got that, we gonna use this website description for actually writing our HTML code. So here are the instructions for our Claude model. We then use a function called Claude. So we do, you're a senior web developer using only HTML and CSS. Return plain HTML and nothing else. Write the code for the following website description. Yeah, then we do a print and then we call Claude. It's very simple. Here we have our function called Claude. And that is just like passing those instructions, which is this text basically. I mean, we have the prompt plus this image description. And then we just call the 3.5 Sonnet, the newest model, which is very good at creating HTML pages. And we just call it and store the answer in a file, which is this HTML file. Yeah, so this is the first step. After the first step, you already then have like your first version. And then if you run this code again, then it's actually going to happen a little bit different steps. So the first step, which is going to happen, is we do analyze result and then write code. So analyze result is this function here. So what we're going to do is first we're going to read the file. We get the website description, which we created in the first step. This we always do no matter on the iteration step. So we always take the website description because we want like a very well description of this one. Then what we're gonna do is we compare the images. And what is that? So we call this function here the compare images function. Basically what it's doing, it's doing exactly the same thing of the first step, but now instead of creating what we're gonna do now is actually we're gonna pass two images to Claude. Sorry, not to Claude, to OpenAI Vision model, to the GPT-4o. So we're gonna pass this one here, and then we pass this one here, and then we wanna compare those images. So what we do is both images are screenshots of an HTML page. First image is the version I want to achieve. Second image is the recent version, what I do have to improve to achieve this state of first image. Okay, maybe I could improve this a little bit. So yeah, the prompt definitely can be improved. Basically what it's saying is like, one thing that it's like, if you pass two images to OpenAI, or like I guess to all vision models, you can refer to them as first and second image. The model knows which image was passed first, second, third, and so on. So you can always say like first image, second image, second image. So this is how you can refer to those images, and the model will understand of which model you're actually talking, or which model you're referring to. Then imagine you're a designer and describe the developer what he has to improve. Don't write any code. Don't do reference to first image, the developer does not know it. So what I want then is that it gives like a clear description of all the things that has to be changed. What I don't want is that it says like, okay, as you see on the first image, like make the buttons or make the text input like longer or like brighter, as you see on the first image. This is what I don't want. So it shall precisely say, okay, make it around this size. That's why I added don't reference the first image. The developer does not know it. Then it's always good for being more clear with that the model understands what you actually want, that you say like, okay, mentioning like designer and developer. So in this case, the role should be a designer and it talks to the developer. That helps a lot, gives lots of context, and that makes things much more clear. Then here I added actually a second prompt, which I created with the Claude prompt generator. And then you can just play around with it. So right now we use this prompt, but you can use this prompt too. And then I added some more prompts. You can just play around. Actually, the prompt defines, well, I mean, the better your prompt, of course, the better results will be. But this is like a totally experimental project. I just want to show you what is possible, how you can do it, and things like that. So you just can use it and play around with it. So yeah, basically we just call the for model. We pass the two images. We pass our default prompt. And we have Marcus token 300. And then we just return the response of that. And then we are actually here. Then we have the image analysis. And what we do then, we then store our image analysis, we print it, and we get the recent code of the file. So we just have here our recent state HTML. This is what we're gonna use. And this we're gonna pass then to rewrite those instructions, which we then will return for the next step. So these instructions can be interesting too. So what we're gonna do is, you are a senior web developer. This is always good to say. Tell that it's senior. By giving this context, it knows that it's an experienced web developer, that it should web development best practices and things like that. So that's always good to do. Using only HTML and CSS. Don't do major changes on the existing code. So what we don't want is that it's like doing everything totally different. We wanted to do some improvements, not changing, like not reinventing the wheel. Only improve the parts mentioned in the instructions. Sometimes it works well, sometimes it doesn't work so well. Return plain HTML and nothing else. Only return HTML. Here for the script which we have, it does in general return plain HTML. Sometimes it does not. Let's see, here in this case it did. Sometimes it's adding like on the top and on the bottom some things. I think with prompt improvement you can avoid that, or you just write a Python script or like a Python function which just extracts the text which starts like that and doing like and this with like just ask ChatGPT or Claude to create a function for you which is doing that, and then that should be easily solved. When using CSS, include it in the HTML code. That's important because if not, it doesn't really work. If it's like kind of trying to create a new file for the CSS code, then you have to do that. Of course, you could do that. You could say it, okay, please separate the code, mark it clearly as like file 1, file 2 with a pass or something like that. Then you have it cleaner. But in this case, as I don't want it to add more manual steps, I chose this way. Well, actually, you can just create two different files and write some code for that, which should be easy. So here's the recent code. We add the recent code, which is based on the following website description. We add again the website description, which we created initially, and then consider it too. So this one has to be considered. Then improve it to considering the following instruction. So then we add the image analysis, which is the comparison of the two images. Yeah, and that's basically it. This we're gonna then pass to write code, which is then the last step of this iteration. And this one is very simple. We have all of these instructions. We just print it to see if everything is fine. Then we call Claude. And yes, this we already had. This will just then create the HTML. And then we, at the end, when the HTML is created, we just store the screenshot. Okay, store screenshot, I think I want to explain for you too, because it's a crucial part and we did not go through that yet. What it's actually doing, we're going to use Selenium to just create, we kind of run the HTML code which we created, which is pretty much the same thing as doing as a browser. And then off this page, we just create a screenshot automatically. So what is happening? Yeah, basically we get the path, then we open the image in this headless Selenium mode, the WebDriver Chrome, we get it if you don't have it yet, and things like that. If you're not familiar with Selenium and if you want an explanation of this code, just copy paste it, put it into ChatGPT and ask it to explain it to you like step by step. Yeah, basically that's it. Then we at the end we store the image. We use this image path, and at the end we then have our image stored, which we can then use. Yeah, I think that's basically it. And so we have like 2 steps. If you run it the first time, it's creating the ini description and like a screenshot of the first version. And then if you run it every time, then you run it again, it's kind of iterating on the recent version. So it's improving it more and more and more. So you can run it various times. And yes, of course, I hardly recommend you to play around with this code. One more thing that I wanted to say, I was using here the Swarm. And one limitation right now of Swarm is that you cannot easily use different models. And I kind of bypassed that by just writing a custom function, which is called Claude, because called Claude is a lot better as on writing code right now. Of course, you can use the O1 model, for example, then it would probably work with Swarm. But I used Claude. And so you can just create your own functions if you want to use only Swarm and call like local models or other models. And that's very easy then to integrate. Okay, so thanks a lot for watching. And if you want to support the channel, please subscribe, like. Have a nice day. Ciao, ciao.